Hello, everybody, and welcome to Encounters USA with author Matthew Hines. If you're looking for alien incidents, Bigfoot brouhahas, or dogman dealings, we have the podcast interviews, field research, and field interviews you're gonna love. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and check us out on Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello, everybody. We have our first, I think I'm going to have you scoot over here. Mike, can you scoot over just a little bit? Let's center on this little frame here. So I have Michael, say it again, Brian. It sounds like a lion. And I love to promote authors. And I saw this book, so I said, hey, wait a minute, look at this. This is right up my alley. So the book is The Road to Strange. And right now, Mike and I are sitting at the Paranormal Summit to 2020 in Ocean Shores. So Michael, welcome. This is your first time on Encounters USA.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming here, and thank you for spending a couple minutes to do the podcast. So you are here. We're waiting to get the event set up. Right behind us is the event itself, but there's nobody here. So we're just talking to Michael for a little bit. So tell me about The Road to Strange.
The Road to Strange is a series of books that I created along with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Bless her soul, she passed away last July. Very, very sad. Rosemary was, I'm going to say, probably the world's preeminent expert on subjects of the paranormal, and she also excelled in her knowledge of the field of ufology. And she knew that I had been collecting stories for years that ran the gamut of everything and anything that can happen to you when you're traveling. But I also had a sub-collection of UFO stories that I interviewed people about. But I would ask people, do you have anything that was really great, good, wonderful, bad, horrible, horrendous from hell stories? Or anything unusual? And guess what? Easily 5% of all the stories people told me were strange stories. And they covered areas of UFOs and paranormal. And so Rosemary knew I'd been doing that for years, and we'd been friends. I knew her from the late 80s, met her around the time we were all going through crop circles in England and trying to figure out what that was all about. Mm-hmm. And she said, Michael, why don't we do a book together or a series? And we came up with The Road to Strange. And we have two books so far. The Road to Strange, Travel Tales of the Paranormal, and there's the notion of travel tales. And then The Road to Strange, UFOs, Aliens, and High Strangeness. And Rosemary and I had begun thinking about our third book when she passed away unexpectedly and sadly. And her husband, Joe Red Miles, at some point is going to pick up and continue the company. And perhaps we'll do a third book, The Road to Strange, and honor Rosemary in the process of that.
Okay. Michael, one thing that we deal with on Encounters USA is strangeness. We like remote viewing. We like connections between Bigfoot and aliens. We like connections between Bigfoot and 411 missing people. So what is your take on high strangeness in your book, The Road to Strange?
I've broached the subject of the paranormal and UFOs in my interviews with people with two mantras in mind. When I say mantra, it's two ideas that people say or present when they're telling their experiences. And one is, I know what I saw. I know what I saw. I know what I saw. Mm-hmm. And you have to think that these people are very sincere and they've had experiences. And the second mantra, which leads right from that, is if but one of these is true. Mm-hmm. And when people begin to talk about a lot of their experiences, it's very easy to see that at least one of these experiences is real and true. You don't have to believe everything that everybody tells you. For example, this is an interesting thing. When we wrote the first one of the series, The Road to Strange Travel Tales of the Paranormal, all of a sudden I realized, my God, I have 5 or 6 of my own experiences. A lot of which, most of which, was during my travels. And I really began to think about that. And I know that my experiences, as far as I'm concerned, to me were real, and I feel like they gave evidence of the paranormal. So I tell you, more than one of my experiences was true. I'm the writer of the book, and I get the license to do that. But I tried to look into why people were having experiences, say, while they're traveling, and of course while they're not traveling. And I came up with an interesting kind of discovery. And that came from my studies of the psychology of travel, which is really behind all this. I ultimately did a PhD in social psychology at the University of Hawaii, if you can believe that. And so I began to study the whole idea of what's the psychology behind travel. And then I began to think about, okay, where does the paranormal come in? How is it that I had a bunch of personal experiences that were bordering on the paranormal? And I started to examine that, and I came to a couple of conclusions. Now, it's not rocket science, but I'll tell you that these conclusions came from my collecting these stories and writing about them and interviewing people. And one is, when you go traveling, you're really open. You open yourself up. You allow things to come in. You're not as critical of new experiences. In fact, you seek these new experiences. Why? Because we want novelty. We want to grow personally. We want to increase our self-esteem. We want to increase our self-confidence. We want to be more of all that we can be. And for the same token, this openness lets us also open to things that are not that conventional all the time. And therefore, people have paranormal experiences in their travels. And another thing, too. I noticed that some of my experiences centered around being safe and being secure. So I think the very basic of all human needs, in Maslow's pyramid of human needs, we've all had that in a Psychology 101 course, haven't we? And the most basic need for people is to be safe and secure. So I say that when we're traveling, that's going into operation as well. From being more of who we can be and being open, and being safe and secure. Yeah. And that's where that comes in.
So, Michael, you've detailed different paranormal experiences that you have: UFOs, aliens, and high strangeness. High strangeness being paranormal.
High strangeness is anything that seems out of the mundane and ordinary, that you don't have a ready explanation about. And I would include in that, for example, stories of synchronicities, coincidences that seem to have greater meaning than just being a chance happening. In my case, I have had several quintuple synchronicity. 5 things, all incredibly unbelievable, happening together. And I've had a couple of triple ones, 3 different things coming into play. And I've had the kinds of synchronicities that most all of us have, and that is seeing somebody show up in the most unexpected places, and you just don't think it's necessarily by chance.
Yeah. See, none of that stuff happens to me because I can't accept it. It'd blow my mind, and that'd be it. So if I'm traveling, what am I more likely to encounter? Am I going to encounter like ghosts, spirits, UFOs?
If you're open-minded to this, I would say that a lot of the stories go in the directions of hauntings, ghosts, unusual appearances, presence, poltergeist, strange things like that. Maybe we could label it as ghosts, but it could be ranging from objects flying off of shelves to actually seeing apparitions. Yeah. And that can happen.
Yeah. Now, I'm a dull person, never had anything happen to me, but we were talking earlier about my background, like I taught in the Middle East, and I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
I think Michael wants to interview me for some of my stories that I've encountered, but here's one. When I was in the Sultanate of Oman, I taught these students that were college age, and all these boys said, "Oh, come out to this. There's a wadi, which is we call it an oasis." So we're jumping in the water. It's like 150 degrees. It's just smoking hot. And they go, they said, there's a cave up on the mountain. I said, well, let's go to that cave. And they said, it's very dangerous. And I said, no, let's go. It's not dangerous. So we went to the cave. We had to hike a long way and went through all these wadis, whatever. And we got to basically a hole in the mountain, and we had to get down and crawl in. And we're in not even like 10, 15 feet in. And the first of the kids go, that's it. Go back. And I said, why? They said, it's dangerous. They said, there's jinn. You know jinn? Jinn is ghosts in Arabic. So I said, no, going back. And they took we had 3 flashlights, they took 1. So then we got 2 flashlights, and I was with this kid his dad was a major in the Omani army, so he's brave. So he and I, we continued on, and another guy followed us. And we got to like an opening, we stood up, and then there's a pool running in there. And all these kids are going, okay, that's it, let's go. I go, why are you so scared? They said, because these people they died in here. They don't speak English very well. But the story is that these people, they found dead in there. And they had a camera. And when they developed the film, there's all these ghosts on the camera.
But they were bodies.
And the police found, according to the story, So these kids, that was it. They told me the story. Let's go. So I said, no, wait. They said you're too dangerous. And so anyway, but that was my one real. I mean, they have a ton of ghost stories there.
I hope we could get a chance to do an interview. Yeah. If not here this weekend, I could certainly meet you in Redmond.
Oh yeah. Well, we can.
Or you could come to Bainbridge or Skype.
Yeah.
I live on Bainbridge Island. So.
Oh well, I'll come to Bainbridge.
Yeah. No, I always someday on my epitaph, I was going to say, he could always use another story. Even though I've interviewed about 1,800 people already, I could use your stories.
Well, I got 3 500-page books, so I got plenty of stories.
That's great.
Well, all right. So Michael Brein, as in lion, nice to meet you, and thanks for showing up on this interview, and good luck here at the event.
Thank you.
I hope you sell a lot of books, and I will have Mike's links. These are on Amazon, right?
They're available on Amazon.
So I'll have the links on the description to this video.
Okay, thank you. So come by and grab a business card.
All right, I will do that.
Thanks.
Thanks,
fun.
Michael. You take care.
Enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us on Encounters USA. Remember, if you have comments, please leave them in the comments section on YouTube and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell while you're at it. Don't forget, if you'd like to be a guest on Encounters USA, just send us an email at encountersusa1@gmail.com and just put podcast guest in the subject line. Now, please remember that all of the guests' opinions on Encounters USA are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the podcast host nor the podcast sponsors. So thank you, and don't forget, when you're out in the woods looking for aliens, Bigfoot, or Dogman, always watch your back.